Hello and welcome to this video presented by Advanced Data Business Systems. ADBS has been developing enterprise applications since 1981 for small to large organizations. This is the ADS video series and I am Thomas Wade Gonder.
This is video 3011 using status to determine procedure flow in a form. The status area of a form presents information to the user, like error and status messages. Most of the forms and subforms have a status area. An option in the ADS allows turning on the status area so we can display when certain form procedures run. This can be very helpful. Instead of using breakpoints and stop statements, we can have a record of what procedures ran, and we can review that later. In this particular project I'm working on, I've had a little problem with a form understanding what's going on in the relationship between a main form and a subform. Let's go ahead and get Access started. This is the typical Access startup page. Let's go ahead and run this particular file here. Double click. And here's a logon. I'll just go ahead and do that as myself real quick. Enter, enter, enter. And there's the typical menu that I see. I'm going to just go ahead and type in 4012, which is the code for the entity form. And that comes up. I'm going to go ahead and minimize the menus. Now this particular form shows you what procedures have run and then a status message. The new form that I'm working on is this one for personal information. And the actual forms themselves, it's a main form and subform. Get down here. I have a personal information main form, and then I also have the subform down here. Let's go ahead and run that from the related forms box. So this is a form that's related to the entity form. It's a new one that I'm working on. For about a day I spent organizing the layout of it. Now I'm trying to get certain features to run. If I click on that, I get nothing. That's because that particular record has nothing to show. So I'm going to go to the previous record and I'm going to click on it again. This is Zelma. I use Zelma a lot for testing. So I'm going to click on personal there, and boom, we've got the form. I'm going to go ahead and move it up over the other form to cut down on the noise on the screen. And we see that we have a status area in the main form. This is the main form up in here, and this is the subform down in here. And we have a bunch of preview messages coming up. Whoa, why have I only got one here, but I've got at least 4, maybe 5 running down here in the subform? Alright, I want to see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here in the search area. I'm going to look for CNTL front end. Those are 2 tables that I have. One is sort of a documentation table. So I'm going to look in it, and I know that I'm looking in app mod, which is for application universal, looking for form options. So click in that and scroll out till I see something, status show processing. That looks promising. I happen to know that that's PNI 3, that's the field. So I'm going to close this form down. I'm going to open up the actual control table, and I'm going to go down here to 4 form options. Click on it so I can scroll out and see that I'm on this row. I'm going to change this 0 to a 2. Save it. Close it. I'm going to close this form down and restart it. Move it up over the other form. And we can see now that procedures 1 through 6 have run. And here's the names of the procedures in the VBA code. And down in here we can see in the subform that we've had up to 25 procedures running just to get this form started. Interesting. Now, the issue I'm having is I'm trying to figure out when somebody clicks in this part of the form, I want to know that they're now in the subform versus the main form. At the moment, we have the next button has focus, So I'm going to click in the begin date. But before I do that, I'm going to look up here and I see that I'm in procedure 6, ran, and procedure 25. So what I'm going to do is in my trusty little desk calculator sitting right beside me here, I'm going to put 6.25. So I know that I've had 6 procedures run in 25. Now I'm going to click in the begin date and see what happens. So we went from 6 procedures and we ran a 7th, 8th, and 9th procedure. These are the got focus, local got focus, and a helper routine got focus. Alright, good. That's as I would expect. If I click in the end date, we should see that we lost some focus, lost some focus, lost some focus, and got some focus again. Alright, things are looking good here. Now I'm kind of curious, what happens if I click down here in the subform? So right now we're in 1425. So I'm going to put that in my calculator, 14.25. Okay, now I'm going to click down here in this box that has Martinez. Now what I was hoping to do was see if maybe the onActivate, deactivate, form got focus or not got focus, if those ran. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the Visual Basic for those particular procedures. Here is the VBA code for the subform. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I'm looking for the activate. So here I've got some procedures, an activate procedure, deactivate, got focus, and lost focus. These 2 lines here in each procedure print the procedure name into the status area and here, and if they were to run we would expect to see a status message, but we don't see anything that says when we went to this form that this subform got activated or got focus, and therein is my problem. I'm going to have to find another way to do the logic that I want to do when somebody jumps from this particular main form into a subform. And ultimately I'm going to have 3 different subforms that have information, personal information for a person or an organization or financial data. And if we can scroll down a little bit, we can see that we can have all kinds of personal information, things like coat size, glove size, biometrics for the face and the eyes, the palms and all the fingers. So this is some of the personal information that we can have on a person. But, and here's my problem, I'll just touch on it, we're not going to solve it here. If I edit this data, as is typical in my forms, they change from a yellow to a green in this area, and the actual text box that has focus turns sort of this goldenrod color, so you know where you are without having to look for this silly little cursor. But we can see that we can't, I'm going to click in Martinez, can't type anything in. The subform isn't allowing entry. It's still in the preview mode. So I need to run some logic that will say, okay, when I get into the subform, if the main form allows editing, I need to run the procedures that change the colors in here and allow editing. But I've got, my big problem has been, where do I put that logic? Well, I would have thought, based on my other experience in other forms, I would put it on it when the form activates. But as we can see here, the activate never ran, or the form never got focus. So that's something strange going on in Access, behind the scenes with the Access part, not our VBA code. And now we have a record of what's going on, and we can continue to try to solve this problem.